We've talked so much today about technology, we've talked about processes, we've talked about all the things that you need to change in your organization in order to keep evolving with your customers. But one of the things we haven't spent a ton of time talking about is our agents and that contact center culture that is so near and dear to all of us, and that we have to continue to foster to create that next wave of great talent. And so it is my pleasure to bring on stage our VP of Social Impact and Public Policy, Tiffany Apczynski.
Hi. Hello.
You might want this.
All right, I want this too. Hi. All right, it is the end of the day. Yes, we can see that, can't we? How are we all feeling? How are we doing? Yeah? All right, so before I dive into this, I just want to take a quick temperature check. Who here is feeling like this is the best part of the day? I won't take it personally if it's not. Just show of hands, best part of the day. Thanks, Kayla. Yes, who is feeling like, I'm a little meh and I'm a little low energy? Who's feeling like that by a show of hands? All of you are, I can tell. So, before we dig into this exciting presentation, I am going to try my best to do a little exercise to make as many of you as possible happy before we get started. And so the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna play a little game I like to call Get to Know a Stranger. What I forgot to add was parentheses, in a safe space. And the rules of this game are really simple. If you are sitting next to someone you know, I don't want you to talk to them. What I need all of you to do is either turn to someone you don't know, and if no one around you is a stranger, oh God, people are like, shit, let's get out of here. This is like another exercise that we can all move to the front. So everybody change their seat right now. Sit next to someone you don't know, and when I say go, ask them what's their name, where they work, and what's their favorite place or thing about San Francisco. And I'm just gonna give you a couple minutes to do it. Everybody change their seat. Let's get to know each other. We have a great closing act. We need Adam to feel loved and supported, and so let's just do it. Let's all get into this. Get to know each other. All right, come on, I know, I hate these exercises too, but we gotta do it. Let's all learn, move, find someone. Not just the door, find each other. Yes, here we go. It doesn't have to be duos, it can be triples, quadruples. All right, good. I hate to interrupt, but I worry that was also the lever that I pulled to have everyone exit. It's hard being at the end of the day. All right, so now let's bring it back to me. No, I'm just kidding. Let's all come back, pay attention to this exciting content I'm gonna get into. But so how do we feel now by a round of applause? Like, how do we feel now? How do we feel now? All right. Yeah, we feel better, right? Hopefully you feel better. And that's because strangers actually make us happy. And I know that sounds weird, trust me. But there are all of these studies happening right now, largely because we're so digitally connected, that the world of academia has really dug into this topic. And recently, the University of British Columbia studied the impact of social interactions, very small social interactions, like the one you just had, on very small economic transactions. So what they did is they studied a coffee house, and they looked at what the relationships looked like between a customer and the folks working at the coffee house when a very small social interaction was layered in. Hi, how's it going? How about this weather? I love lattes. And what they found was that both parties left that interaction not only with their mood elevated, they left with a sense of belonging. And so these encounters, they mean something. Another study this one comes from Purdue, looked at the effect of what happens when we make eye contact with strangers, which, ooh, yeah, that I know how that feels. But what happens when you see someone on the street and you're like, or, whoa, what if you take it a step further and you see someone on the street and you're like, good morning? What they found was the same thing. People left those interactions feeling uplifted, that there was a sense of belonging, that there was community held within that brief moment. And that's a lot of research. So I'm going to share a couple personal stories, because leading up to this talk, I'm going to dive in and make sure I back up every point that I make, but I should apply some of this stuff to the things that I'm doing. So I was in Palm Springs last week, and I decided to go to an Orange Theory class. And in going to that class, I borrowed a friend's car that I did not know how to use very well. And so I cut off someone very deliberately, or not deliberately, it was by accident, but I cut her off, and we made eye contact, and she had a headband on, and I was like, I totally know where she's going. She's going to the same class I'm going. And yeah, we pulled into the parking lot, and we faced each other, and we were both like, so I'm in the class, and I'm like, oh my God, like, you just read these surveys, and you just looked at this study. You have to go talk to this woman. So at the end of the class, I went up to her and I'm like, hi, I cut you off earlier. I'm visiting, and I was driving a friend's car, and I explained to her everything, and she's like, oh my gosh, where are you from? And we had this great moment, and it was like, oh wow, that did feel good. I did feel like we were a part of a community. It works. And then more recently, yesterday, we had our rehearsal here in this venue, and I was walking back down to our offices, which are at 6th and Market Street. And for those of you who are familiar with the Tenderloin, it can be a tough neighborhood. And as I was walking there, I see a gentleman at the corner acting a little erratically, and I'm like, huh. So I get there, and he starts speaking to me, and I made eye contact with him. And he looked at me, and he said, I was wearing this necklace. The necklace you're wearing, it seems really precious to you. It's a nice day, someone's gonna grab it off of your neck. This necklace is precious to me. My husband and my daughter gave it to me, and I tucked it into my shirt, and then I had a lot to ponder about who I am as a result. But I felt a part of a community. I felt a part of a community that is the Tenderloin, which isn't the easiest community to plug into. So these random brief encounters, they affect our feelings, they affect our human connectionness. But oh no, our smartphones are changing this. And specifically, for one study that I'm going to quote, and it will be the last one of the day, our smartphones are making us smile less. And so another study that comes from the University of British Columbia again, UC Irvine and Georgetown, took strangers, not unlike yourselves, you're all pals now, put one group together and said, no smartphones. And they put another group together and said, it's fine, you can use your smartphones. Well, the group that had their smartphones smiled less than the other group, and the smiles were less genuine. So we're at a super interesting crossroads right now. We're at a crossroads where you've heard all day today how important it is to use technology to bring the kind of support to the people that you serve. Yet at the same time, that same technology that's connecting us is disconnecting us in those very human ways. So it presents a very interesting challenge if you're a pessimist, an opportunity if you're an optimist, to figure out how do we bridge these gaps. You are in a position that you're never going to be able to have these brief random moments where you smile at your customer or you make eye contact with them. Yet these brief random encounters that have so much power to them are the bread and butter of your business, which is why I predict that customer service is going to be the it job for the next decade. That's right, you're skeptical. But let's remember, in the 80s, the stockbroker, which is the most boring job on paper, was definitely hot. We made a lot of movies as early as 2 or 3 years ago about that. And let's not forget that in the 90s, it was the software engineer, okay? And that's still one of the hottest jobs to get into. So anything's possible. But the reason why we're moving in this direction is this new merging of tech savviness of our agents needing to be so literate on the products that they're using, balanced with high emotional intelligence that can be translated through the machines they are using, is going to be critical. So this is a really important time for you. It's an important time for your teams. It's an important time to make the impact on these connections that you might brush away, but really keep us together as a community. And I think a lot of people are getting the message on this because jobs in customer service are only growing. This statistic is from the US Department of Labor. It shows that employment in contact centers is going to grow by 36%. So this industry is only growing. It's moving to the center of the organization. It's becoming the place that you connect your brand and your message to the reality of it. It's a consistent experience for your customer. You can say you're great, you can say you care, but where it's really going to show is when the support agent answers that email or picks up that call or responds to that tweet. So in addition to the industry growing as a whole, if you haven't read our Zendesk benchmark, I hope you will. It's very interesting. But one of the data points that I'd like to point out right now is in the past 5 years, daily ticket volumes have increased by 145%, sadly outpacing growth, which is only, team size is only up 66%. So there's a massive delta there. But we're seeing that our customers, they're more empowered, right? They're digitally savvy themselves, and their expectations are getting really high because 55% of our support agents who were surveyed in this benchmark said, whoa, customers, they're getting a bit more demanding. So we have a lot on our plates right now. We're in a digitally connected world that it feels like every few months more is piled on us and our teams and our agents to respond. And we have shifts in our consumers are saying like, but I want it to feel personal, I want it to feel real, I want it to feel authentic. Despite that magnitude of an issue, of that delta that we have to fix, the good news is in this same benchmark, when we ask customers, well, what do you want most? We want knowledgeable agents. They just want someone to know. And when we asked agents what they wanted, they want friendly customers. So our needs are still pretty basic. Now, I've focused a lot on what the customers want and how we have to shift some of our thinking about how we're doing business to the customers. But what we have to remember is this new era of support that we're going to, we have to hire from a very specific demographic to fill the needs of this growing industry, and that's our millennials. And our millennials and our Gen Z, they are the largest global population, 50% of the global population. And their desire, where they want to work, it's purpose-driven. It's a lot different. They want mentorship. They want to feel like they're making an impact. And this is your future workforce. As you rise and plan to meet these demands, you can't forget that there is a new generation of workforce that's coming in to manage these customer expectations. And when we look at millennials specifically in the land of customer service, on average, they'll stay with a company for 2 years, and then when you look at where they'll stay in terms of a contact center or on a support agent team, the turnover is around 33%. So this is a population that we really have to think about. And that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to talk about how do you build this next era of contact center culture. And the first thing you have to do is you have to build rituals. Not like hazing rituals, like real meaningful rituals. Because they bond people together. They create that sense of community. And so we have a few recommended areas in terms of how you should try to fit these rituals if you don't already have them. And one is around collaboration. And so there is a great ritual that Amazon has where if a meeting is so large that they require more than 2 pizzas to feed everyone, they cut the meeting list because they need people to collaborate. They need people to not check out. And Starbucks has a great first training thing that they do, that the person who's been hired has coffee, not surprisingly, with their manager, and they learn about their manager's favorite coffee, and they learn about the origin of that coffee. And it becomes an opportunity for them to get to know each other, to suddenly be ingrained in that company's culture while getting to know the product. And finally, I'll just say at Zendesk, what we do is every new hire, you volunteer. We make you go out into the community as a group of strangers and get to know each other while you're doing something really meaningful. The second bucket is around transparency. When you're thinking about building your rituals, how can you leverage those rituals so that they build a sense of transparency within your organization? And a customer that we have called ShipStation, what they do are these Thursday shout-outs to their executive team. So it's an opportunity for them to feature a really fantastic customer service moment, elevating the spirits of that agent who probably has barely any contact with an executive, all the while showcasing to the executive the job that they're doing, why support is so important, why it's critical to investment. And then values. How can you bring those large company values into your support team? How can they connect with those? Because again, if you are a company and you have a message that says, we care, then your agents need to be able to translate that authentically to the customer. And one way you do that is making sure that they feel a sense of the company's values on an ongoing basis. And so Indeed.com, which is a recruiting platform, they print t-shirts that say, I help people get a job. They help connect their agents to the cause by saying, you had an impact on someone's economic equity. And then at OXO, what they do is anytime you find a single glove somewhere, you bring it to the office and you pin it up because it's meant to convey we're all different and we're all unique. And that becomes a really wonderful ritual to think about the values, to think about that bonding that can happen around values. Second thing you want to do is be authentic, especially if you are a leader. Bring your authentic self to the table and hire people who are authentic. You know, the days of the scripts are over. We need individuals who are bringing their own perspective and their own points of view and their own personalities to our customers. Because again, strangers make each other happy. So those dynamics can be super powerful. So the way we recommend how to build authenticity, hire those charismatic connectors. And so one company that we love to talk about is Magnolia. Chip and Joanna, hopefully you all love them too, because they're lovely. What they have hired a gal who used to be a cowgirl. And she brings that cowgirl personality to the table, and they never tried to change that. And their customers love her. And when they're at that point where they actually need to get on a call with an agent, they feel that the message that Magnolia Marketplace, that the Chip and Joanna Gaines brand brings to the table is absolutely authentic, and that agent can perform better as a result, because all she gets to think about is the product and the service she's delivering. She doesn't have to mask anything. Another way to bring authenticity is do something meaningful together. And a great exercise that you can do tomorrow that I love is, it's simple. Get your team to stand up, take a piece of paper, write each person's name on an individual piece of paper. So say you have a team of 12, you should have 12 pieces of paper, one person's name on each piece. Put it on a table, and then have the team walk around and write something that they like about that agent, or they like about that employee. And then the person whose name is at the top of that paper gets to leave with a really memorable list of why they are rock stars. And they can keep that at their desk. And they can feel, people know me here. And when they're hitting that low moment, they can look at that paper and say, that's who I am, and that's what the people around me feel I am about. And the final piece of advice comes from a customer who used to work at Honda, where she told us about these party committees that they would create. And the role of the party committee was to really get to know each individual person on a team. And then the way that they would convey this is when it was someone's birthday, they would have a very knowledgeable list of their interests, and they would deck out their desk according to the themes of that interest. So the person walked in and could be like, wow, they got to know me, and they cared enough to demonstrate that, to illustrate that by decorating my desk in volcanoes, because I love volcanoes, however you want to do it. That's so important, that value, that I am a whole person and I'm seen that way. That's only going to be further conveyed to your customers, and your customers want that. And then finally, link their impact. I know that it can be really hard to be in the support department and think that you don't have a lot of control over the mission. You don't have a lot of control over many of the processes, but you can still link their impact. And it's important to do that. This is a chart that comes from Bain & Company, showing you how much you can get out of an employee if they're engaged. So that bottom band, that's when they're just satisfied. You get 0.75 times out of an employee that's satisfied compared to an employee that's unsatisfied. Super easy to get there. Then you move into the engaged employee, where they're like, I'm empowered, I'm part of a great team, and you get almost 1.5 times more, right? And then you move into the inspired employee band. This is the person who's like, this company speaks to me. It speaks to my values. This company helps me make an impact in my life, on other people's lives, potentially the world. And look at that, 2.25 times more than the just satisfied employee. We talked about that delta, that tickets are, daily ticket volumes are increasing by 145%. Your teams are only growing by 66%. That's what starts to help to fill that delta. So it's important to get your employees to that inspired level, and you can do that by linking their impact, and we have some recommendations around that as well, which is make their skills matter. Your employees are the unsung heroes of your department, and they don't hear it enough that their skills matter. And we have someone at Zendesk who the way they go about this is they say, well, you solved this many tickets, and it did this ROI, and you saved the company this much money. And so that's one way to do it, and it's really good, because we know that support sometimes seen as a cost center. But we also recommend getting them involved outside of their role. And so one thing that we do at Zendesk is we have our support agents do skilled volunteering. And one way they do skilled volunteering is they work with our nonprofits and they role play before fundraising season, which anyone who's in nonprofits, that is the critical make or break moment for your nonprofit's fundraising for that year. So they role play with them so that the nonprofit, where support's not their area of expertise, can better understand what's it feel like to be a donor? What's it feel like to give your money or increase your giving? And that means so much to our agents that they're like, wow, I was able to work with a nonprofit that's changing people's lives by getting them to be better with their donors. The other way we do this is we train our nonprofits on customer support in the way that they are thinking of them being the front-line agents for a client in distress. So our support teams will help that nonprofit that might have a hotline that they have to man. And what that experience, how you can make that so impactful for the person who's really in that part of their day, that part of their life where they are vulnerable and they are hurt and they are feeling like there's no place else to go. And our support agents volunteer with them and like, this is how you can make it an outstanding experience. And they go back to their desks and are like, wow, I really lived some values today. And then the final thing that we ask our support agents to do is just mock interviews with anyone who's facing a barrier or a challenge to getting into the workforce. Going back to that Indeed.com example, I got someone a job today. This offers that same kind of impact. So these are some of the ways that you can give your agents that brain break, all the while linking the impact of their skills in super important ways. So just to finish up here, as you enter this new era of customer service, as we look at the ways that we have to be more digitally connected than ever before, that's not going away, but we have to figure out, it's upon all of us to figure out how do we continue to build that sense of community. Everyone here in this room, your power is greater than you probably think. I hope you're drunk with that power, but it's true. As more of us are going to be funneled into our devices to make these connections, how we make those random connections powerful is really critical. And you're going to do that by creating a culture that matters, not perks. Yeah, if you can afford to have coconut water, fine, have it. That's not going to be what an employee clings to when the ticket queues are the highest, when the company's at its weakest point. It's going to be that they feel like they're part of a culture that matters. Be authentic leaders. Build those rituals and inspire through your impact. And to just be super punny to close it all up, don't be a stranger. You can always email me at tiffany@zendesk.com. We have our social impact booth on the second floor. You can come see us, talk to us more about this. We have a great website that we just launched a couple days ago, empathymovement.com. We'd love for you to come to that and get some of our best practices and articles about building empathy into your contact center, into your culture. And I hope you love the next speaker, Adam Rapone, as much as I do. And I hope you have a great rest of your conference. And thank you for sticking it out to the end. Take care. Yeah.